really looking forward to this release, the Call Me Master box set, the sequel box set Monsters. Earlier in the year, we had Call Me Master Inner Demons, which I really enjoyed as Big Finish have been making their foray into the 13th Doctor's era, where we had, the Lupari in the Old Doctors, New Monsters box set. We've had the Fugitive Doctor, we've had the 13th Doctor proper as well, and we've also got the Sacha Dhawan Master in these really introspective, contemplative stories, basically breaking him down as a character. These box sets take place prior to the events of Spyfall, where we meet the Spy Master, where he meets the 13th Doctor proper in that disguise as O. So these are him basically trying to figure himself out in these. This is basically him trying to figure himself out as an incarnation. And we've got this follow-up box set here, Call Me Master, which has three stories: The Craft of Corruption by Alison Winter, The Ideal Quarry by Jodie Hauser, and Reformation by Lisa McMullen. And the one I'm really excited for, which we'll get to shortly, is The Ideal Quarry by Jodie Hauser, because if you recognise that name, Jodie Hauser is one of the writers for the Titan Comics range for the 13th Doctor. She's written for the 13th Doctor, she's written for The Fugitive. Jodie Hauser is a really strong Doctor Who writer who had great acclaim with her 13th Doctor comics, and people have basically been saying that they preferred that version of the 13th Doctor than what we got on TV, and this is her Big Finish debut as a writer. So, let's see if she's able to stick the landing here for a Spy Master story in this box set. But the first story here is The Craft of Corruption by Alison Winter. And this story takes place on a interstellar cruise liner, the Esperanza, and the Master is in disguise as the ship's counsellor. And there's a really great opening scene when the Master, posing as the counsellor, is talking to the head of security, acting as her therapist, Jemima, who is the head of security on the ship, and played by Anna Spearpoint. And he's trying to use these therapy and counselling sessions to figure out all of the weaknesses of the ship so he can infiltrate it and figure everything out and how to engineer an escape. Because this cruiser is making its way through a area of the galaxy that is overseen by the IPC, that's the Interstellar Protection Corps, and lightspeed travel is outlawed in these areas, and the Master is trying to find a way to get faster than light travel so he can vamoose and get out of there. And he stumbles across this stowaway on the ship called Kel, played by Kitty O'Sullivan. And Kel is ex-IPC, is trying to meet up with her online boyfriend called DeForest in order to escape the IPC and to try and make a name and a new life for herself. And the Master essentially ends up taking Kel on as a pseudo-companion in this story. But let's play a quick clip from The Craft of Corruption.
See? I'm not running away.
You wouldn't get very far if you did, my darling. How old are you? You look about 11.
I'm 19.
19? Oh, I get it. Attitude, audacity, stunted growth.
Oi.
Ooh, and something dreadful in the eyes. Ooh, I like that. Yeah. You're an IPC agent. A deserter.
Please, please.
Running away like a little rat from a testing laboratory. Interstellar Protection Corps. The government of the stars, the reign of decency, assimilating orphans since orphans began. The adopted workforce of the galaxy. Ugh.
You don't understand. They'll kill me.
No, I know. Horribly too, so I've heard. Make an example of you. Traitor.
Don't.
Easy, easy. I'm not gonna tell. My name's John. John Smith. Have you got a name? Designation? Same thing, innit?
Hell. It means the number 6 in most IPC sector languages.
6? Just the number 6? Aren't there a lot of number 6s?
There are a lot of John Smiths, but I'm not complaining.
Oh, I like you.
Just like the Call Me Master Inner Demons box set, I love how Sacha Dhawan has just completely thrown himself back into this role with sheer enthusiasm to the point where I'm not even sure how much of it is scripted and how much of it is improv half the time. I do think that this version of the Master leans a little bit too heavily on the pop culture references. In the third story, Reformation, he goes into a bit of improv for, and that's the way I like it, which, why are all of your pop culture references, Master, around 20th or 21st century Earth. You know, get a hobby, you know, you get a girlfriend. But for Call Me Master Monsters, I love how, you know, he's continuing to find his feet and find new layers of complexity for this role. I've made it no secret that I am a big fan of the Sacha Dhawan incarnation from the Chris Chibnall era. I think in terms of just the Master, he's probably my favourite of the revival. And I love Missy's arc, you know, once you get beyond Series 8 of Doctor Who. You know, I think that she really starts getting interesting in Series 9 and Series 10 as an incarnation, where she starts subverting what you'd consider a Master to be. But in terms of just, this is the Master, the Moriarty to the Dr. Sherlock Holmes, this is the incarnation that I think of from the show's revival, at least personally. So I might be, you know, a little bit biased there. But for the Craft of Corruption, I think it starts and ends really, really strong. It's just sort of the middle where I think it feels a little bit rudderless, like structurally. I think the premise is really, really strong. I think the idea of the Master picking up this stowaway, who's just this young teenager who's, you know, trying to meet up with her online boyfriend to try and rise up against the IPC. I think that's really, really strong in terms of a premise. But then the ship security figures out that they've escaped and starts pursuing them. But then the ship gets boarded by bandits, and there's apparently a monster as well living in the vacuum of space. There's a twist revolving around Jemima, and it turns out the Master has been doing something undercover on this ship for months to draw the attention of the IPC, but they only arrive to investigate when it's convenient for the plot, and what he was doing ends up perfectly countering what the bandits are doing on the ship, despite him not knowing who they were before they arrived. The second act feels really, really haphazard. But honestly, objectively, massive air quotes, I think it was a mess, but I did really enjoy it. A lot of it is carried by Sacha Dhawan's energy and the dynamic with Kel. I think Jemima's giving a really strong performance as well. I just think the whole second act with the bandits boarding the ship, conceptually they're interesting, and then the Master's interactions with them and kind of relating to them as an outcast of his own society, just as the bandits are from theirs. I thought that that was interesting, but in terms of the structure, in terms of the contrivances of the plot to make it work and the Master to overcome the bandits, I think it's kind of tough to justify, honestly. I think this might have needed another draft or two to really to sell the legitimacy of the plot. But it has a really killer final 10 minutes that is completely separated from the Esperanza luxury cruise liner, and Sacha Dhawan really, really makes a name for himself as the Master, and I think that's a really, really strong ending that feels almost at home in a War Master box set with Derek Jacobi. I think it's a really strong outing for the character and also Sacha Dhawan, the performer. But what I want to know is, will the writer, Jodie Hauser, have a terrific outing for Big Finish in the ideal quarry? So the Master ends up picking up another companion, and that's the thing about this Call Me Master box set. Each story essentially has a faux pseudo companion for the Master to play against. In this case, it's Veg. Veg is a Sontaran, played by who else? Dan Starkey, and Veg has been sentenced to death on Sontar. It's an appointment that he's incredibly keen to meet. His nickname is Veg the Survivor, because during a route and skirmish, his platoon caused a landslide which buried him, and he was buried alive, but the rest of his team died in the conflict, so Veg the Survivor is a very bad title for a Sontaran soldier, a Sontaran sergeant, and he is now being sentenced to death, but it's what he wants to do because it's the honourable way to die. Let's play a clip from The Ideal Quarry.
This transport is woefully underpowered.
Well, you know what they say about beggars.
That their pathetic pleas are far more likely to shorten their lives than extend them.
Oh, I like you. Can't say I've ever seen a Sontaran hitching a ride before. Made me rather curious.
And what would a spindly little alien like you know of the great and glorious Sontaran Empire?
That is one of the most brutal and effective militaries in all the universe, raining down the fire of conflict and conquest on 1,000 worlds. I just read about it in a book.
One of? Huh. I take it you know little of warfare.
There are wars, and there are wars. But that's not really here nor there, is it?
Being here is precisely the problem.
Right. And where would there be, my darling?
Sontar, of course. But we'll have to hurry if we're to make the execution.
Ooh, I do love a good execution. And who's dying today?
Me, obviously. Your vehicle appears to have stalled.
Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You're voluntarily headed to your own execution?
Yes.
Of your own volition?
Of course.
I've been executed a few times myself, and... yeah, not nearly as fun as you may think.
Yeah, this master is a little bit extra. I don't know. I kind of love him for it. I love the gumption, you know? I love the Joker vibes. But the ideal quarry, so that's the inciting incident, the master meeting up with this Sontaran who wants to be taken to his own execution. But the main thrust of the story is that they receive a distress signal from this abandoned resort, and the master knows that there's a stockpile of weapons down there, and he wants to get his hands on those weapons. And he says to Veg, oh, well, if you go into your own execution, don't you want to arrive in a ship that is glorious for the Sontaran Empire and armed to the teeth? So we're going to go down here and get these weapons and equip our ship with these weapons so that you can make a glorious entrance on Sontar. So they make their way down to this abandoned resort, and you have these clones called Host, Bell, and List, played by Ramit Raleigh, and they are working for Sir Fang, who is played by Jacqueline King, who is this beast creature who puts them essentially in this Hunger Games environment where they're being monitored and all of these different elements are thrown at them. It's like Hunger Games, except it's only the Master and Veg there, and it's the environment themselves and these beasts that are trying to kill them. And the Master and Veg have to try and survive this hostile environment that Sir Fang, or Sir Florencia Fang, as her full name is, has created. Jacqueline King is very, very good as the villainous Fang, really, really leaning into the unhinged energy of this predator. And I think that the comparison is like Jacqueline King playing the Baba Yaga in the Fugitive Doctor story, The Legend of the Baba Yaga. Just this, I don't know how Jacqueline King finds these reserves of energy to play these very eccentric creatures and monsters, but I'm very glad that she does. And, you know, the listener is the one who wins in this case. The Master and Veg's dynamic back and forth is really fun, especially with the Master being humiliated at the idea that Veg considers the Master to be his prisoner, and then they get dropped in this environment, so he's essentially the prisoner of a prisoner, and that really hurts the Master's ego. I think Jodie Houser's dialogue is the main the standout here. I think it's the back and forth and the interplay and the witticisms between the Master and Veg that really carries it forward, and the Master essentially just carrying this whole team. When Sir Fang does meet them later on in the story, she's like, yeah, it's clear where the brain cell is between you two here. And Veg, obviously they play the Sontarans here for comic relief. I know that there's basically two dynamics of Sontarans in Big Finish. You get the serious warmongers, and you have the basically Strax the butler or Veg the survivor comic relief Sontarans, and this is more in the comic relief vein. And Veg is obsessed with arming himself with a big stick, stuff like that. That's fun. It's a fun dynamic. It ultimately comes together in a really satisfying ending where the Master figures out the secret behind this resort, what Fang is doing here, what her role in everything is, and it's a bit of a tragic story for Fang, but if Fang was in any other box set, she probably would have had a happier ending. But no, she's in a Master box set, so it is going to be a full-blown tragedy, a tragedy drama here. I think that the Ideal Quarry is a really fun, well-paced story where the dialogue and the character dynamics is what really, really carries it forward. I enjoyed it. I had an awful lot of fun with it. And the third one is Reformation by Lisa McMullen. The Master finds himself awoken in essentially a coffin, upside down and tied up. And over the course of these therapy sessions that he's having with this entity in his brain, with someone called Renata, played by Daisy Head, he starts figuring out why he's there. He's essentially being Christmas caroled, where he's got this entity in his head that's able to show him the past, the present, and the future, and trying to make him reform. He is trapped inside a reformation chamber. As his conscience grows, as his awareness of what he's done in the past starts to grow, his prison, his tomb, his coffin, whatever you want to call it, starts getting slightly larger so he can start wandering around it and start talking properly to Renata. And in this story, he's essentially dealing with his conscience. He's essentially having the conversations with this angel on his shoulder while he is the devil incarnate, basically. I'm trying to figure out what specifically makes this master tick. What was it from his school days that that really latches onto him and becomes a core memory for him? What's the grudge that he has against the Time Lords that will ultimately make him want to commit genocide against them prior to the events of Spyfall? And also, what does he think of these other incarnations who could potentially be more prone to forgiveness from people like the Doctor, like Missy? And this story basically seems to all but confirm that he's a post-Missy incarnation. Inner Demons was very, very much leaning in that direction, but I do think that this box set, Monsters, basically confirms it. But before we get any further, let's play a quick clip from Reformation.
What did I ever do to you?
It's complicated.
Oh, I can do complicated.
Guess.
Oh, goody goody. A game. Oh, I love a game. Let me think. What could I possibly have done to offend? Did I kill your cat? Murder your mother? Wipe out your entire people?
A genocide?
It has been known. The odd one or two. 3 at most. Half a dozen tops. It's easy to lose track, isn't it? I mean, what is genocide, really? Just a killing spree with ambition.
Is that what you really think? Do you never consider your conscience?
Conscience? Oh, I'm afraid you must have me confused for someone else, my darling. I don't have a conscience. The walls are moving again. The cell is getting bigger.
Your conscience must be pricking you.
I told you, I barely have one.
None at all, you seem to imply. And now you say barely. Barely is something more than nothing.
Hardly.
Which is also a tad more than 0. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have a conscience.
Separate people.
And quite the guilty one, at that.
Sorry if a random Rusty Davis clip popped up towards like the very end of that clip. I was trying to find another because I just remembered what this reminds me of. It's like the Puss in Boots: The Last Wish when Big Jack has got his conscience and he's like, "Oh, you think so?" and then flicks him away. That's basically what this story is. It's the Master speaking with his conscience and trying to basically negotiate with himself and go through all of the stages of grief and denial. The story is essentially a two-hander between the Master and his therapist, Renata. It's basically Sacha Dhawan and Daisy Head throughout the entirety of this 50 to 55 minute story, and the substance of the character work and the dialogue really does carry it, and the sound mix is great. This is really a story that was built for the audio medium as we hop from environment to environment, and multi-rolling ensues as well as we go to the Master's past at school and his reaction and how he views looking into the untempered schism, as we saw in the flashbacks in series 3 of when you're just a child and you have to look into the eternity of time and space, and it drove the Master mad and he ran away. And how does he think about that all of these years later, and why he wants to take revenge on the Time Lords for putting a kid like that through, putting a kid through all of that. It's a really strong story. I don't actually have too much more to say about it other than the performances are really strong and the substance of it is really, really effective. It's really fascinating to have such a explicit deep dive into this incarnation of the Master, and also how he views other incarnations that might be, more prone to emotional manipulation, who might be more prone to flattery, or who might be more prone to forgiveness, or more positive emotions from friends like the Doctor. And I'm starting to think that maybe the Spy Master is kind of resentful to previous incarnations like Missy, who have a much more friendly relationship with the Doctor. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic to take it. I'm really looking forward to what they do with the Master moving forward, because the Call Me Master box set, they only have like 2 announced, Inner Demons and Monsters. There's no future for the range at time of recording this review, but I'd love to see what they do if they want to pair him up with another incarnation like the Fugitive Doctor, or maybe with the 13th Doctor with Jodie Whittaker proper. That would be a really interesting approach to have them properly hash it out. I think that would be a really good evolution for the character, especially if they want to continue these more introspective stories. But these have been some really, really strong box sets this year. Is there any more hints as to where he is in the Master's timeline? I think it's post-Missy, pre-Spyfall. That's what I can glean from this. But Call Me Master Monsters is a really, really strong box set. I think I prefer it to Inner Demons, and I really did like Inner Demons. I think The Craft of Corruption, while it does have a very haphazard second act, is still really entertaining with a killer ending. The Ideal Quarry is a really fun buddy story with the Master and the Sontaran, and Reformation is just a really fun and really interesting high concept exploration about the Master's morality. This is a really, really strong box set for the character. If you watched the Jodie Whittaker era and could just not get on board with this incarnation of the Master, it might be a harder sell. I'd encourage you to give it a shot, but if it's not for you, it's not for you. But if you did really resonate with this incarnation of the Master, like I did, it's a very easy recommendation. So this is basically the Reformation story in a nutshell.
You're an irredeemable monster! Oh, what took you so long, idiot?
There we go, I just saved you 3 hours.